Hi, this is Roman, and today we're going to be going over Unit 8, Conditional Probability, Day 14 on Related Events, Part 2, and our focus question is going to be how can we determine if events are dependent or independent and find their probabilities. So I'm going to focus my attention here on slide 11 and give an idea for how to create some discussion using an app. So the app that I'm going to present today is called Kialo. So I'm going to kialo.edu.com, and I see a pros and cons list here that hopefully maybe I'll share later. But for now, if I go to the main page, you'll see create discussion on the top right. And I'm going to create a private discussion for my first sample. And I'll see two options. I'll see a single thesis, which has pros and cons, or a multiple thesis, which just has students' ideas going in order here. So I'm going to click multiple for my first option. And I'm going to ask the first question here. So we're going to see as I copy and paste here, I'm going to have to break these lines because it says I went over my limit, but that's just because of the way I pasted it. Right, and as I do that, we should see that I have more than enough space to have our full question and show some of the great features that this applet has. So we have our discussion title, right? Let's say I want to add a link. Why don't I add this whole lesson for students to possibly have? So now I have my link here. Discussion tags. Maybe I might want to include some vocabulary words here, right? So maybe dependent, independent, and so on. We could say probability as one of them as well. So I fix my vocab there. And then I'm going to click next. And again, I can include an image, so why not include this full image here so students can reference the question. So I'm just dragging and dropping it in. And I'm going to click complete. And now it's going to load it. So here's how it's going to appear. And you as a teacher could see your changes in activity as participants are responding to this question. Now what's really cool is participants can double click on a thesis. So if I give an answer here, like my answer is, and I save it, right? So now students could see this. They could rate it. They can give it a heart. They can click on it. And if they click again, they'll see who wrote it. So I have my name there, Roman, there as I wrote it. And then they could respond to it, right? They could write a comment towards it. So now this is a way to encourage discourse amongst your students using a tool like this. And it organizes it very nicely for everything that's going on. So you'll see all your changes here. And you see this pros and cons list, which I wanted to go into next here. So let's do one more sample of creating this activity. And I'm going to click create discussion. And this time I'm going to click single thesis. And we'll try to make this math-based here because pros and cons are used a lot in English and maybe social studies. But here's a way that we might be able to do this. So are events A and B independent events? And again, I'm just going to put this in the pro column, or dependent events. I'm going to put this in the con column. Explain your reasoning, and we're making it very clear to students that it is not a pro or con, but that is just the way we're labeling it. That way we see students' opinions as they go. So here, as I make this column, I have a break there, so I just have to delete that. And again, we could have dragged and dropped the limit here, our image. We'll see now students can add the pros or cons, or they can have an opinion if there's two different opinions, like a dependent or independent events. And then they could state where they stand, right? And then we can have students respond to it, right? And then we might have duplicate claims. We could have students say the same thing. So it's good to see any recurring themes that are happening here. So I want to show a sample here. If I click on it, of an activity I've done in the school. So this is obviously not content-based, but it'll show you what it looks like once you have a class. So this activity was done with teachers. What are the pros and cons of using social media? So you'll see as these teachers or participants are responding, we have some of them being rated here based on their responses, right? And you'll see, oh look, I have one comment here. So somebody can make a comment based on what you state, which is a very cool thing for discussion. And you as a teacher, you're seeing the activity as it's happening. So it's a great way to gauge discourse, and it's a great way to get some ideas going about how you want to facilitate that peer-to-peer discourse or possibly get a discussion going into a classroom. So again, if I go back to Kialo and I'm looking at this social media prompt, right? You might want to go towards the option of pros and cons, right? You want to highlight to the students that they can rate, they can put a heart, they can comment, and you get all of their activity here on your right with their names. Now, one thing that I should mention here is that students are going to have the option of how they are seen. You will be able to see their email, but that might be a little bit difficult during the lesson itself. So do prompt your students to use their names, their first and possibly last names, or maybe a number or a way that you can identify them or feel comfortable identifying them, instead of maybe a nickname that you're not familiar with or is not appropriate for class. At this time, I do not have a workaround for that. So that is one flaw so far. But aside from that, it's a great way for discourse. And one more flaw that I do want to mention is if your name is Mike S., if you write Mike S., it'll say that name is taken. So you do want to have a unique name. It seems like at this point they are limiting the amount of names that can be used that are repetitive. So maybe add a number or two, or have your students add their number or their class or the time of their period as they enter it. So I hope you guys found this discussion protocol or discussion app useful.